This podcast is brought to you by Independent Building Advice. IBA acknowledges traditional owners of the land and waters this podcast is recorded on. If you find this episode helpful, follow us for more so we can continue putting out free value for all homeowners in Australia. It really goes a long way. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome back to the Home Building Podcast. We have got another episode for you here today. Today, we are going to be talking about how to save money when you're building or extending or renovating your house. Our business, Independent Building Advice, we save people about $37,000 on average. We've had some clients we saved about $700,000. That's definitely not the norm. But on average, we save about $37,000. And we're going to share with you quite a bit of the ideas or ways that we actually save that money for our clients. And we're going to walk you through it. Thank you to everybody who is following our podcast. It means a lot to us, but it also means that we can reach a lot more people out there to help them with their building renovation, because that you following it tells the algorithm that we've got good content, and it means that, you know what, you like it, other people will like you, will probably like it too, and that means we can help more Australians, but it also helps us get better guests, bigger guests that from over east, overseas, and that we feel will be great content and really help people at home, and that's where it helps us a lot. So thank you to all the people who are following us. We really appreciate it. So how to save money building, extending, renovating your house? Well, let me make a few key things here before we get too far into it. These are tips and ideas about how to save money, but without taking away from the awesome ideas you've got, the vision of your home, how to make it really fantastic. So this is not, designing a cheaper home and it's being terrible and you hate it, but hey, guess what? We saved some money. This is really keeping your home amazing, but having all the features or as many features as we can that money can buy. It's about you getting value for money with building or extending or renovating. And for the rest of this video, I'm just going to say building because I don't want to keep saying extending and renovating. You'll get the point. The other thing is it's one of those things like, hey, let's do a podcast on saving money. And then you realize, wow, this is getting a really long list here. So I'm going to cover a fair bit in this. There is a lot more I can cover in another video or another podcast part 2. But if we got enough people that are liking this and commenting and giving us feedback, then we'll see it's worthwhile for a part 2. But we can only cover so much in one episode. So please, hopefully you like this, and we'd love to know if you do. If you've got some saving ideas that people can save that you've done on your build before, or mistakes you've made even that you wish you hadn't done, you'd done better with saving, please leave them in the comments below. We would love to hear it. We will respond to you, but it also helps other people reading the comments as well to find out, suggestions that we may have missed in this podcast, because if you've done it before, there's definitely things that you're going to pick up yourself. We're going to break this podcast into 2 major areas here. One being an overview, things to think about beforehand, things to consider, things to look at as an overview in your building process and journey. The other part is more specifics about your home, talking about design things and also specifications to go through that. So we're going to break into 2 major parts. So number one is, and this is really important, is to get on board with your partner. You're going to find that this process of building, there's so many decisions you've got to make. It's normally broken into sections such as structural stuff and then colours separately. But you want to get on board with your partner if you're doing it with somebody else and make sure that you're both aligned with a lot of things that you want to do. And one of those ones is to find out your finance or your amount that you want to spend. Now, there's 2 numbers that I recommend that you work out here. And the reason why I'm saying you want to work these out is when you get caught up with the whole design and you fall in love with it, and you talk to an architect, designer, whoever you're talking to, you are, or most people are going to get carried away with the process. Oh, we've got to have this and this and this and this. And oh, it's like a kid in a candy store. And then what you find though, if you don't have a plan for what you want to budget, you're going to find you're going to blow your budget. And you're going to fall in love with a house that you want. And often you'll find you get to a point where you go, okay, I want all this stuff, but I don't like the price. What do I pull out? So what I reckon you do is work out 2 things. One, work out how much money you would like to spend. What is a budget that you're really comfortable with, that if you could make everything come in at that, you'd be great. Now, obviously nothing is probably the goal there, but be realistic. What would be a dream if we could get away with all of this for this price? What would be really happy with? Then also work out what's the maximum you would go to on the spend of this build. The reason why I say that, what the maximum is, and you don't have to share these figures with anybody, but this is something that you want to consider. What's the maximum you want to go to? So let's say you went, okay, I only want to spend $750,000 on this build. However, look, I'm happy to stretch to $850 at an absolute maximum, not 1 cent over. That's great. And a good question to ask yourself is, okay, if it was $851, would I be okay with that? Okay, well, that's not your max. If the answer is yes, there's one. What is that actual top figure? Write that down. Talk to your partner about this, and make sure you both agree on that figure. And then what you need to do is make sure that everything you want in your home is ideally at your dream figure, but not 1 cent over that maximum figure. Having this plan beforehand and agreeing to it means that it gives you perspective. And when you get caught up in the whole design and, hey, we could do this and this and this, you're grounded in reality of what you pre-agreed to. It will help you out tremendously. Believe me, if you have a plan. If you go into that, we've had clients in the past go, I don't have a budget. I can do whatever I want to do. You're going to be in a world of pain. Everybody, I don't care if you're a billionaire, you're going to have a budget for what you want to spend on the home. You just need to work what that is, and you want to do that earlier on in the process. On the back of that, though, I'd also work out with your partner, or unless you're doing it by yourself, work out a list of must-haves versus a list of what you absolutely would like to have, but if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. For example, we often do extensions to people's homes, and they'll put a kitchen in that because their kitchen's too small, and that would change their lives if they put the new kitchen in there. But then when they start talking to us, they want, we'll do that bathroom as well, and it'd be good if we actually extended that, and if we did new flooring, and if we actually fixed up the front of the home or re-rendered it or put a new roof on it. And all of a sudden, they started off with just a kitchen, and they've blown out to this massive big change. They get the final bill, and a big part of that is they go, wow, we don't want to spend that much. And they put everything on hold. And because they're freaking out over how much it's going to cost them. A few arguments normally happen in the household. They go, it's too hard. We're going to put everything on hold for about 6 to 12 months. 6 to 12 months later, they come back. The kitchen's still too small. They revisit the whole thing, and they basically start again. Often they don't go back to the original people because they're embarrassed and they didn't work it out. But now all the prices have gone up, and it's cost them an absolute fortune. Write down, if we had a new kitchen or whatever it might be, if we just had that, would that change our lives? If it would, and we could live with that, that's great. Then everything else is a bonus. By doing this, you're keeping yourself centered, and you're keeping yourself on what really matters, where you got to. And again, it's going to stop that. We call it price creep or creep, where you start here and then you add, and all of a sudden it gets more expensive. It's like going to Coles and you're going to buy a carton of milk and you end up buying chocolates and lollies and, pasta, whatever. And then when you leave and you go to pay for it, it's just mounted up. And that can happen very quickly with building, extending, and renovating. So make sure that you know what really is going to make a difference, and then make that your core part, and then extend to it if you want to with your budgeting. All right, so the next one is plan for now and the future. So one of the first questions that our team will always ask you is, how long do you want to live in this home for? The reason why we ask you that is that if you're going to build and sell the home straight away, well, your strategy should be to make the home as cost effective as possible and good enough for resale and get rid of it, because that's your plan. It's not really about you, it's about the people who are going to buy it. If you're going to live in a home forever, which is what a lot of our clients do, well, then we want to change that thinking. We want to look at what life stage you're at now. It might be that you're doing your first home. It might be that you're starting a family. It might be that your kids are teenagers and you need more space. It might be that your kids are at uni now and they're not moving out and they need even more space. Or it might be that you're downsizing. Depending where you're at, you want to plan for today and also for the next 5 years or the next life stage for you. So if you're, for example, you've got a family that's just young family and you're designing for them, well, those kids are going to be teenagers pretty soon and they're going to want their own space. They're going to have their friends over and they're going to really be all over you, and they want to get away from you, and you probably at that point in time want to get away from them. Well, make sure you're catering for that now. To build for today, only to have to extend or change it later is going to be incredibly expensive. The most expensive thing about building is actually getting the teams there, the trades there to start, and the suppliers there to start before you're actually building. That's the most expensive part. So you want to make sure you get as much done now so you don't have to revisit that in the future. It's a really big point. So make sure you're life planning. Now, again, one of the questions we ask is, how long do you want to live there? Our team guides you on that kind of thing, but you want to make sure that if you're not going through us and you're going through someone else, that they're thinking about now and also the future as best as possible. Now, if you're going to, before you go down this path, obviously make sure you can get the finances. If you cash, great. If you're going through a bank, great. Just make sure you can get the money that you're thinking about. Last thing you want to do really is design a home that doesn't fit your budget and then you can't get the money and then you've wasted your time. You probably paid design fees at this point in time and that's all going to go in the bin if you can't get the money. So talk to a bank, ideally a finance broker, because they look at multiple different banks, and try and find out what you can borrow. Make sure you're happy with the repayments, that they're affordable for you and that you're comfortable with this before you go down this path too far. So you have a clear idea of what you're getting into, that you're comfortable with that and it's going to work for you. The timing of building and renovating and extending is important. Really, the time frames is important in the sense that of price hold periods and building. But right now in Perth, West Australia, and Australia across the broad area is really expensive to build, and it's going to get more and more expensive. It's trade shortages in Perth. There's mining, which is taking a lot of the trades away. Supplies are going up. There's a lot of things happening out there. The longer you leave it, the more expensive it's going to be. I work roughly on 1% a month. So if you're spending $800,000 on your house, 1% a month, $8,000 a month, that adds up really quickly. And I'm not saying rush into anything. I'm just saying think about it, be prepared for it, make it happen for the best way for you. And that's what you want to do going forward. Now, once you've got the budget and you're happy with everything, you got to work out what's the process you want to follow. And there's really three main processes that you can follow. Main ones that are out there, and we offer a fourth alternative. So number one is what a lot of people do is they'll go to a builder and they'll go through a display village or look online, and their friends built 10 years ago, and they go, hey, this builder's great. And they go, great. And they go speak to that builder, and a lovely salesperson's there, and they're really friendly and helpful, and they get that builder to draw something up and price it. And often that builder offers a free design service. It doesn't cost you anything, and you design it up and you go back and forth, and they price it and you go, that's on budget, and we sign up with the builder or multiple builders, and you compare them all and you go ahead. The thing with that though, and that can work out really well, but the thing with that though is that builder is only looking at that builder. That builder is only focusing on what is relevant to them. That sales consultant only gets their commission if that builder goes ahead or they're doing the right thing by that person. And then on top of that though, they are governed by the rules of that builder. If that builder says we give price rises at certain intervals, well, guess what? The salesperson's there for the journey, and they have no other choice to fight back because they work for that builder. So going to that builder, you're really looking at one lane race, and that builder may be great at first home buyers, but not good at the home that you're trying to build. Or they might be really good at a single story, but you want to do a 2-story, and we can do it, but it's not really what they do. You might have the wrong builder or tool in this case for the kind of home that you want to build. So you want to make sure that if you're going directly to a builder, that they are specialists in what you do, and you want to do a fair bit of background checks to make sure that's the way to go. If you're getting multiple quotes from multiple different designs and all designing something different, you're not really comparing apples with apples. And a lot of builders are really good at trying to appear really cheap because they know you're comparing it, and you may not be the best value for money long-term in the project. So for example, you might find that they allow minimal lighting in your house, right? And then when you actually get to the part pre-start, when you talk about your lighting, guess what? We've got to upgrade everything, and then the price really starts kicking in. Or that their tiling is really cheap, or their taps are really cheap, and that you don't find this out till later. So the specification or the little hidden costs, if builders are a lot cheaper than other builders, you got to ask why. There's got to be a reason behind it. Normally, it's a specification thing, or they're better at hiding things than other people. Okay, so these are things you got to look at when you go directly to a builder. And if someone's looking out for you or knows these things, that certainly helps you. Another way of doing it is going to an architect. If you go to an architect and they design up your home for you, that's fantastic. And the process normally is you find an architect or a designer that you like, they design the home for you to your specifications, to your inclusions, and you go, oh my gosh, I love it. You've gone back and forth a few times and you fall in love with it. Then what happens is once you've got that drawing, you go, okay, well, let's find the right builder. We like these 2-3 builders. You approach those builders, and in theory, you approach the builders price it, and you go, okay, I've got this drawing. I give it to 3 different builders, and they go, okay, and do you know what? Builder B is the best. Let's sign up with them, and you live happily ever after. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily how it goes. What happens is you see an architect designing, you pay them a lot of money. That does vary with each one, sometimes, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, depending on the architect. And then what happens is when they design the home up for you, you've got this issue where they've designed it and you fall in love with it, and they've done exactly what you've asked them for. They've even put some input on how to make the design better. You go, oh my gosh, I love this design. Let's go see builders. You go out to builders that you like the most and you go, hey, can you please price our design? And they go, no. And you go, oh, well, why not? He goes, because we think we might be wasting our time. And if they don't say that to you, that's definitely what they're thinking, because they know that more often than not, the architectural designer has absolutely blown your budget, although they've said they might be on budget because they may not be aware of what things really cost. Or they are aware of things cost, and they've just done what you've asked them to do as far as the drawing goes, and they kind of ignored it. So they know, the builder knows it's going to cost me quite a bit of money, to time and energy to price your home. You're shopping it out to other people. Why would I waste my time pricing your home when I've got a really small chance of getting it? And if I do price it the best, then everyone else is probably going to be cheaper, but you might not be able to afford it. In fact, more often than not, you can't afford it. There's a stat, we did $1.8 million of jobs hit our desk over a year. It was from November to November, of clients who had actually seen architects or designers, wanted to build that home, came to us to help them out find a builder. And what happened was we had to throw them all in the bin and start again because they were all way over their budget, 20, 30% over their budget. They couldn't afford it. And we had to change it so much to bring it back on budget. We just had to start again. And it's a real risk. So the issue that you have with architects and designers is often, the builder might not price it. If they are price it, it's not uncommon for the builder to say, okay, pay us $3,000 and we'll price it, that goes against the model you're trying to achieve. Or if they do price it for you, it's a very rare thing, and if they do, well, then you're running the risk of, are they the same as other builders? They all write them up differently, the whole thing. So that process is fraught with danger, and it's incredibly hard. I would actually turn around to the architectural designer and say, okay, great, is this going to be on budget? Well, do I get my money back if it's not within 5 or 10%? And most of them won't do that, and that's the problem, is that you need to make sure that you're not wasting your money on these fees only to find that you can't build the home. It's just dead money. It's worth just a piece of paper if you can't actually build it and it's not hitting your budget. So real issue for you there, but if you know what you're doing, then that's not so bad. The next thing you got to look at though with that is own a building. A lot of people own a build. They go, hey, I'm going to build my own home. How hard can it be? I got some free time. Well, unless you are a supervisor, unless you are a builder yourself, or you are incredibly well networked, right? Incredibly well networked, you are competing with every major builder out there. You're competing for slabs, bricklayers, roof carpenters, all these people out there, and there is a major shortage in Perth. There is major shortages in Perth. I was talking to a builder the other day. They said if we had 3 times the amount of bricklayers available today, we still wouldn't have enough for Perth. It's crazy. So what are you going to do to try and get these trades on to service your home than somebody else's? If a trade in some of these areas are free today, it probably means they're not that great. Why are they free? And if they aren't free and they've got this continuous work with one of the bigger builders out there, they've got endless amount of work, they're getting paid on time, why would they stop working for them and come work for you? And often it's because you have to throw money at them. Now, if you build that home and they do a bad job, right, and it's not good for you and you don't get it fixed up, well, you got to find another trade to take over, and it's going to be even harder. And if you're not organised from this, you can get stuck. The reason why I'm raising this with you is we get a lot of people who are owner builders. They get halfway through and they turn around and go, oh no, we can't keep doing this. It's been 2.5 years and we haven't even got the brick walls up. They reach out to us to try and find a builder, but then there's other builders, well, I don't want to take over an owner builder's job. So it's fraught with danger. So if you're a supervisor or you're a builder or you're incredibly organised, great way to go. Definitely do that. But if you're relying on mates or mates of mates or whichever, it could be a world of pain more often than not, and it's very hard to get out of. So it can be a money pit for you. Another thing on that thing, which is very similar to that, is different ways that builders price things. So if you actually have a home and you're going to go to a builder, is it going to be a fixed price or is it going to be cost plus? And I've touched on this on an earlier episode. So what fixed price is that they'll quote your home. Generally, they'll send it off to their trades and suppliers and get a real quote for what it's going to cost to do that home. And they'll add their margin to it, they'll add GST to it, they might add a few percentage to it for delays and so forth. And that's how they do it. So when they do that, that's a fixed price. If you sign up and that you move through preliminary plans agreement quickly, contracts quickly, you get to site in a reasonable amount of time, that price legally will not change during construction, and you can bank on that. Literally bank on that. You can actually get finance for it. The other option, which you can't get finance for, is cost plus. That is whatever the home costs plus margin plus GST. Okay. Now, I built a home, my last home I actually built, I extended the current one, but if you're actually in my last home I personally built, I did cost plus and I saved about $80,000. Great way to go. Brilliant way to go. It was awesome. But the timing was right. I was in a very stable, predictable market. I knew the home I was building wasn't overly complicated. I believed in the builder because I'm in the building industry, believe it or not. And I actually went, okay, great, this stacks up, and it did. It paid off really well. In this market where it's volatile, there's lots of delays, there's lots of outstanding things, there's lots of issues, cost plus means that the price could go up dramatically, and guess who's paying for it? You, the client, are paying for it, not the builder. Which means also that if you're actually doing that, the builder's got no burden on them really. They've got no urgency, because if the price goes up, it's your problem. It's not their problem. So they really can just put all their issues onto you, being the client. Now, for example, if you're extending a home and let's say there's a wall and they knock down that wall by accident, you're paying for it because you're cost plus. It's the cost of fixing that wall, redoing it, and then you've got to pay for everything. Any problem, any cost on site, you pay for plus margin plus GST. So the builder's almost encouraged to make mistakes because at the end of the day, they make margin on all this and they make a profit. So cost plus is incredibly dangerous. Again, if you're a builder and you've got yourself organized, and maybe that might be the way to go, but we're aiming this people at the everyday person. So cost plus versus fixed price, I would go fixed price personally, mainly because I like things being predictable. I know what it's going to cost. I know what the issues are going to be there that are coming up. The builder's going to be responsible for it. The burden is on them to do a great job and build it quickly. The faster the builder builds the home, the more margin and profit they make because they're going to have less margin bleed. So it's in their best interest. So fixed price is what I recommend, but you've got to basically work out what's best for you or get guidance and advice on what's the best outcome for your particular home. So the fourth option is the option that we offer. So, and there are other options. There's things like building brokers, things like that. So the building broker model, you got to be careful of that. Some people out there say they're building brokers, but they're actually just salespeople that work for a company, and they say we've got lots of different builders, we've only got one. Some out there, you're paying commission on commission, and it's not great. What our model is actually is we're completely independent of builders. We design the home for you. All our designers, we call them client advocates because they're not only do they design the home for you one-on-one, but they're also very trained on what things cost. We spend a lot of time on that, so they're aware of the specification and inclusions. And then once they've designed the home for you, we've got 21 different builders we work with. They narrow it down to 3 that specialise in your kind of project, 2 or 3 depending on your project. And once you've got that, we go out, get quotes for you. Once we've got the quotes for you, we sit down, we basically do a spreadsheet to analyse them all. We identify with your help which one's the best one for you, and we go, okay, this is a great one, and then we go down that path. You sign up with them, and we stay with you through the whole process. The reason for that is that we're looking at all the things we're talking about today and more to make sure that you're being looked out for, because we work for you, not the builder. But that's we can talk about more about this at the end there, but that's a service that we provide. So this is just how we help. But that model of doing that, it just takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You're not trying to guess, is this the best builder for me? What's involved? We're not just Googling builders. There's 7 criteria they have to meet, well priced, good building, so forth. And that's really what you want to do. So if you've got time to look at yourself and you're confident, great, do it. But this is a service that we provide. And what that does, it just removes that fear because someone who's an expert is looking out for your interests. But that's something we do, and that's one of the things that we do to save money. So when you are actually engaging a builder, you want to look at the complexity of your home. Is that builder used to doing the complexity of that home? And the reason why I'm saying that, let's say you want to do big raking cathedral ceilings through your home at the back there. It looks amazing. And that builder is not used to doing it. When they estimate it, they might get a quote for that and they're going, well, we're not really used to doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of fat into this job. We're going to add more money into this job. So if we do stuff it up, we're still going to make a profit from it because we're not really that familiar with how we're going to do it. For example, if you're going to do an internal brick wall, one straight wall, well, guess what? They do that every day. They know what that's going to cost. They know how to do that. It's not a problem. But the more complicated it gets, the more they're going to go, oh, I don't know, let's throw money at it. If it's a builder that does it all the time and they're incredibly experienced in that, well, then they're going to be more conservative because they know what they're doing and that's how they're going to make it work. The other thing you got to look at, though, is that the longer it takes, like the more complex it is, the longer it's going to take that builder to build it. So, for example, if they're going to do a normal flat ceiling versus a raking ceiling, there's a lot more time and delays and issues and problems with that. Therefore, they have to allow more money and time because, as I said, the quicker they build the home, the more cost effective it's going to be for them. So if this is going to take me 3 months longer than normal, it's going to be expensive. So guess what? Let's allow more money for that just to cover ourselves. The person pricing your home, their job is to protect the builder's margin, keep them profitable. So they need to find that fine line between the two to make sure that they're not charging you too much, but they do have to protect that builder to make sure that they're not losing money on your particular job. So complexity is really important. And that brings us back to your land. If your land is a flat, sandy block, and when I say sandy, I mean there's no clay, that means that the builder goes, okay, I know what this is. We can build on this really easily. That's fantastic. We don't need retaining walls. We don't need to allow for, drop footings, any of this stuff because, hey, it's a perfect flat sandy block. However, if your block's sloping, then we have to allow for retaining. We might have to drop the footings. We might have different slab levels. There's a lot more involved in that. And that will haunt you in a couple of different ways. One, you got to pay for getting the block ready for site works. So a flat sandy block, to give you a perspective in somewhere like Beldiver, so that like a normal estate block might cost you about $25,000 in site works, roughly, depending on, things that you have in there, and that includes connecting your power, water, electricity, sewer, soak wells, all that kind of stuff to get your land ready, turning the sand over, compacting it. But if you've got a sloping block, then you've got things like retaining. You're going to have to change the soil over. If it's a clay site, you have to rip that clay out, put fresh sand in there. There's all these other costs, and that could cost you $70,000. It really jumps up. But it also means that the builder's going to spend a lot more time preparing that land before they can even start building. They have to factor those delays into the price of your home. And these are things that really make your house start jumping up. I'm not saying you shouldn't build on these, but the complexity of your site and your land is a major thing. If you're extending access to the site, to put trades out there, to get wheelbarrows at the back there, to do all those things are major cost things that builders have to look at. If you're on a busy road, guess what? We need to do traffic management. If you're in a bushfire attack level area, they have to upgrade your home. So your land, your location, these are all things that really push that price up, and they're things you got to consider before you buy your block of land, and it's certainly things that you want the builder to consider when they're pricing your house, because if they don't consider it up front, you are going to find out later, because they're not going to miss you, what that's going to cost, and there are hidden costs that might cost you more money than what you want to spend. And this podcast is all about saving your money. So land is important. You want to find out that you actually got the right house for that block and you've got the right builder for that particular block. Because again, if they're not used to doing it and it's really complex, well, guess what? They're going to throw more money at it just to cover themselves. It's a great way to save money. Any delay that's going to happen with your building process is going to cost you money. So for example, the builder, when you sign a preliminary plans agreement, that's the first time you really pay them a deposit really, that's going to fix the price normally for 60, maybe 90 days with the builder. And then at that point, they should produce you working drawings of the contract, you sign the contract, and that extends that price hold period. And then you should start within that time period. That's normally another 60 days. And then you start getting on site and then you build, and that price shouldn't change if it's a fixed price. That's a beautiful way of doing it. However, if you've got outstanding things that's going to stop the builder from being able to build in those timeframes, well, you're going to be subject to potentially to a price increase. And they're things like you require planning approval, and that planning approval in those processes hasn't been achieved yet. That's normally a 3-month process. Depending on the builder's process, that means that they may push you outside those price hold periods because planning hasn't come in. And if you can't do a building approval until you've got planning approval, and we've got another podcast explaining all this for you. But with the planning approval, if you need that, that may hold up you going to site, and therefore the builder may pass on a price increase. Another one is you need to demolish the home. You need to make sure that house is demolished in time. You need to wrap bait that home. You need to make sure you've got the right demolition company that's booked in. If that house isn't gone and you're building a home there, they can't build the home without it. These are things that could delay things, and this means that the builder might pass it on. A massive one at the moment is titles. If you're buying in an estate or if you're subdividing a block of land and that land or that title is not available, then the council does not recognise that block of land. It doesn't exist to them. When the titles come out, then it exists. But you might buy the block of land and you has no power or water to that block, which the builder needs to build the home. If it's not ready in time, by the time their price hold period is up, you may be subject to a price increase. Obviously, you want to avoid price increases. So you want to get as much due diligence as possible to find out what could delay the project on your end so that you're not subject to that price increase. Now, your sales consultant or your advisor, whoever who's helping you, should be giving you this information up front. And if they're not, there's questions you definitely want to ask. What could delay this project? What could push me outside my price hold period? And what can we do about it? Are really important questions you want to find out, because nobody likes a price rise. With us, we can mostly predict any particular circumstances that would happen for a client, where it could cause delays and could get a price rise, and we try to allow money for that up front, so it's not a surprise to you. We had a lady probably about 2 years ago now. She had a block of land in an estate. It was a big farmhouse estate. It was running. They said it was going to be ready in February. I knew that developer. I knew we were looking at June, July. Really, they're always running late. We allowed $30,000 extra over the standard price, but we didn't tell the builder this. I told her to keep it up her sleeve. Sure enough, got to that point, the builder had to pass on a price increase. They passed on $25,000. They were really nervous about it because they didn't want to upset the client. Client was stoked because she allowed 30 grand. She basically saved $5,000 from the total thing there, paid it straight away. The builder was shocked how quickly she paid it. But that was because we could see it coming, and we said, look, let's allow this money. There's not much we can do about it. They're delayed. You've bought the land already. Let's just make it work. But it's always nice to know about these things rather than getting a and a very nasty surprise. So really your land, making sure you're ready to go is the way to go. So let's get into house design, how you can save money with your house design, how you can really make things work. And some of these things really comes down to clever design and having someone design your home for you. So number one thing that we see on site for designing your house is perimeter. Perimeter is the outside of your home. That is the amount of external brickwork or whatever it is you're building the home out of with your home to make sure that that is at an absolute minimum. If you do a courtyard, for example, where it comes down and then you get this nice big internal courtyard, you've got so much external perimeter wall, it all adds up and costs you a fortune. If you're going to do like a TV nook and you're just going to push the TV out under the eaves and you're going to have that nice look there, that's about $5,000. Because you're paying for that external work there and extra slab area. It's really expensive. Try to avoid that. You really want to build, in fact, if you look at display homes, most of them are complete squares or as close to being a square as possible because all cost effective, it saves money. Now, square is also boring, so you don't want a boring house, right? So what you want to do is try and keep the sides and the rear of the home that you don't really see as square and straight lines as possible, and then make the front more of a feature. Have different levels there of front, forward, whichever have different features, because that's the front of your home. But you really want to be conservative with your perimeter and space to make that work for you, and that saves you a lot of money. A lot of people with design, they've brought their designs to us and go, this is over our budget, and we have basically just trimmed up their perimeter, squared it up, and saved them tens of thousands of dollars. It's a massive thing. An architect designer might go, oh, this looks pretty how we've done it this way, and it's great, but in reality it is bloody expensive, and if it's down the side of the home, no one's going to see it. Now, if you want a courtyard home, then do it. I'm not saying don't do it, but these are things where you want to try and save money where you can. There's no point wasting money on something that no one's really going to see or enjoy, or it's a minor feature and it's something you don't really need. So perimeter, massive one. Think about your windows and layouts with your home. So, for example, windows at the moment are much more expensive than brick. Probably about 6 years ago, they're about the same price. So the more windows you have, and I'm not saying don't have windows, but the more windows you have, the more expensive it is. Try and be conservative where it makes sense to be conservative, and put windows in as much as you like or as much as you want to spend where you can. But minimize your windows, minimize your size. The actual brickwork, or actually I shouldn't say brickwork, the timber framed or brickwork that you're going to use, whichever, is cheaper than the windows. So therefore, consider what you're going to do with windows. Consider what type of windows you're going to choose. So if you're going to do, let's say, double hung windows, you're going to do louver windows, they're bloody expensive, right? They're really, really expensive to do them. And the reason for doing them is because they're quite finicky. So let's look at it. This is how it works, right? You've got a window manufacturer. Let's say Jason Windows are one of those out there, right? They're making windows all day, every day. And if you look at them, they have standard sizes. Now, a side tip here is you want to try and stick to their standard size as much as possible, because they have their factories going, they got their window making machines, and they might be going, okay, we're going to produce 1,000 windows of this size today. Bang, 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 they get them all out. And that is economical. But then you come along and you go, oh, actually, I want to have this specially designed, custom designed window that we want to do. So they got to shut down their machine. They then got to basically calibrate it to suit your window that you've chosen, and then they have to fire that one window out, and they got to stop the machine, and they got to calibrate it back to the normal machine, right? It's not exactly like this, but it gives you an example. You're paying for stopping the machine, recalibrating, all this stuff you're paying for because you want this custom window. And that's what sometimes, and a mate of mine is an architect, he hand designs every window in your home. Well, you're paying for that. And if you're sitting in the toilet and you're looking at the window, do you really need that custom made? And if you do, cool. But this is what adds up. This is where it costs you a lot of money, and the cost may not meet or may not reach that benefit. You're going to say, is it worth it? If it is, great. If not, it's not. But it will save you a lot of money if you look at it. Try and keep the custom sizes. And sometimes custom sizes will look exactly the same as per the slightly different, millimeter different window that your designer architect might have written in there. So it will save you a fortune, and you wouldn't even notice it half the time. Okay, so it's really important that you look at that. Then you want to look at build methods. What's the best build method for you? If you're looking at, is it brick? Is it timber framed? When do you want to do it? We had a house the other day with a client. They want to change a couple of internal walls. They got floating timber floors in their home, right? The designer that did it did a solid wall, black line. That's all this is. It's a thick black line. And that means to someone else, that's a brick wall. What that really means, right, to that brick wall, it means that when they build that brick wall, because it's so heavy, they have to actually put footings in there, which means the builder has to rip up the timber floors that were all there, the jarrah that's been there for years, go right down into the slab, create a footing in the slab. Once they've done that, then they can actually put all the timber floors back and make them all look good again, and that's what it costs. But if the designer had made it a hollow wall, being a timber framed wall, and put insulation in there, that would have been a fraction of the cost because that can sit on top of the timber that's there. So knowing what is the best building method for your particular project makes a big difference. And that comes back to it. If you go straight to one particular builder and they only build with brick, but timber frame's better, guess what? That's how we build homes. That's what you do going through us. Hence why we're independent. This is why we have a lot of different builders. We would go to a builder that does both, because that's the right tool for your particular project. And you need someone looking at this stuff for you, because you could go to a meeting and design a home and spend $50,000 with someone designing the exact same home but doing different materials, but getting a much better outcome. And this is really where that know-how, knowing what things really cost, makes a big difference to you and your home, and can save you thousands, right? Tens of thousands if you get it wrong or get it right. That's where it comes down to the expertise. So looking at how you're going to build your home is great. If you're going to do a home that's like on a sloping block, some people might say, oh, do a pole home, which means that the home comes out, it's framed, and that you've got poles going into the ground and it's suspended. A lot of people think that's cheaper. No, it's not necessarily cheaper, right? It's what people think it is versus reality is where it's going to make a big difference, okay? So these are all things that you want to consider. What building materials, what methods you're going to use, colour bond versus tile, what are the differences? Energy efficiency is another one that we need to talk about. So energy efficiency in your home, as of 2026, you have to have a 7-star home. That means that your home has been, and we've got a podcast on this as well, but that means that your home is efficient, right, and is comfortable all year round. You don't have to come home and turn the air conditioner on. It feels good, feels comfortable. Now, different building methods make a big difference to how that home is going to be. A reverse brick veneer home, for example, is one of the best ways to build, because it's keeping the heat in there when you want it in wintertime, but you're also keeping it out in summer as best as you can. I won't go too far into to energy efficiency today, but if your home is not solar orientated properly, it's not sitting on the block of land the way it should be sitting on there, it's not getting the light when it's meant to get the light in there, it's not basically feeling comfortable in the best way possible, well, guess what? You're going to have to pay for it. When they put it through the Natters test, or they're going to do a performance solution, they will work out what it rates as. If it's a 5-star home, you are going to be forced to actually upgrade your home to reach that 7-star standard, which means you might have to put anti-con, extra insulation, you might have to put permicab in the walls, all these things that you may or may not know about into your home, and you're spending money to get that to that rating of 7-star. However, if you had just simply designed it right or tweaked a few things, you might not have to do half that stuff and still reach the 7-star rating. So its design is a big part of someone designing it properly to make sure that your home's going to reach these standards, because you are going to pay for it one way or another. And ideally, if you design it properly, and I'll tell you what, a lot of these principles actually make a lot of sense in as far as this really good design, then you're going to find that you're going to have an energy efficient home and save yourselves a lot of money if it's done properly. Now, just to jump a little bit on a specification here. And specification I mean by inclusions. When you're getting builders, especially in the early stages, if you're getting in, go to an architect, go to a designer and get them to price things for you. Be very careful not to mention brands. So often they'll have a write-up, and the designer, architect, whoever might write, we want 20 mil Caesar stone tops throughout the house, right? And the issue with that, though, is you said Caesar stone. Now, nothing against Caesar stone, but that builder might have an agreement with Q-Stone, for example, and they are basically going to get really good buying capacity for pretty much the same colours as what Caesar stone has. But because you wrote Caesar, the builder's not going to question you. They're going to go, Caesar stone, all right, we'll get them to price it, and you're paying more money, whereas you could have got better value for money elsewhere. What you'd be better off writing would be 20 mil quartz composite stones throughout. And that way they can select their supplier and give you the value for money that you want. Unless you want to be really specific, you do want that Caesar stone or whatever brand it might be. But try and keep it generic. Let them tell you what they use, and then you can decide if you want it or not, okay? And that same moment, depending on, and this is mainly with project builders, but depending on what builder you go to, you might go, I want this selection of taps in my kitchen, in my house, and the builder turns around and goes, well, we don't have a buying capacity with them. So they've gone to that supplier, they've negotiated a reduced fee for them if they buy out of this range, and then then they add their margin to it, they add GST, they sell it to you, and it's not that much different to what you would be doing it yourself and buying it yourself retail-wise in the end. However, if you go there and go, oh, I don't use those taps, I use these other taps that I want you to use in my home, which is up to you, but that means that builder's going, okay, we have no buying capacity with them. We're going to add our margin, we're going to add GST, and going to sell it to you, and it's going to be really expensive. So if you can try and stick as much as possible to the brands that they use and recommend, make sure you have a look at those, you're going to save yourself a lot of money, okay? It's really going to make a big difference. On top of that, though, as well, and this is not all builders, but some you have to be aware of, and we try to vet this with our builders, is that sometimes they will price your home at the start, and they'll give you what you've priced. You sign up, you go to you get your contract, you sign your contract, you go to pre-start, and they charge you more margin and charge you higher figures for the same products at pre-start. And you've got to be watch out for that. And you've got to really check your background there with builders. Not all the ways the case. And again, we do make sure that doesn't happen with ours. But at the end of the day, that's a gimmick, because if you look at it from a builder's perspective, right, they're going, okay, you are a layman, you don't do this every day. You are going to go and shop my house around with 4 other builders that are out there, and you won't know what question to ask. You're not going to ask normally, how thick's my plaster in my house, my gyprock in my house. You're not going to ask questions like, how many joists do I have in my home? So the builder's going to go, well, how do I pull things out of the home to appear cheaper, better value for money that you're not going to pick up? You know, often we've said in another podcast as well, they say, has it got reverse cycle air conditioning? And the client goes, yes. Well, the builder goes, yes, it does. And the client goes, oh, great. Well, we don't have any more questions to ask around that. Well, how big is it? What size is it? Big enough for my home? They're all the questions. So the builder, it's almost a race to the bottom for the builder to seem more affordable. Otherwise, they won't get the business. My point with that, though, is that when you go into different builders, it makes sense then to be really cheap at the retail part and go, how are we going to make our profit? We'll make our profit at the pre-start and charge you a premium later. It's not always the way, but that's something you've got to be aware of. And in the end, you're out spending a lot more money than what you would have done with a builder that doesn't do that. But again, that's the way to get in there. Now, that's just the competitive world that we're living in, but these are things you need to be aware of. So you don't want to pick all your taps and that upfront. Is too much to do. Most builders won't do it. They won't entertain it because it's a lot of work to do all that work for you. What you want to do is try and get your structural stuff done and most of your big ticket items, but you also want the consultant to allow money for these things to upgrade or change around later. We do a pre-start allowance for all our clients. We do electrical allowance for all our clients because we know they're going to upgrade these things. We know it's coming. You have to do that with every home anyway, but you want to make sure that you're allowing enough and you're making minimal changes with those things later on. But most importantly, try and find a builder that doesn't do it, that they're honest, and then give you the same margin, the same rate as they are today, and right through the whole process, which I think is fair, but it's just something to watch out with and ways to save money. So on that same sort of line there, I'm of two minds with this one, and this is you can save a lot of money with what I'm about to say here, but is it worth it is the question at the same time. So there are things that you can do after. There's a lot of hidden costs in building. The main ones are site works, flooring, blinds, painting, air conditioning. They're the main ones that are in your home that builders generally do or do not include. And a lot of people, and the reason why they don't normally include them is a lot of people do that afterwards. Okay. Now, I'll tell you the negative thing about doing it afterwards. And the negative thing is that the house is finished, the builders won't let you do that, or often won't let you do that while they've got possession of the home while they're building it, because these foreign traders they don't know of, other companies that they don't have any control over, them going on site is going to get in the way of their other trades, and it's going to be a nightmare. They don't need that. Do it after handover. The negative of that is, one, you can't move in. The other negative of that one too is that we've had it in one of my homes a couple of years ago, we put carpet in one of the rooms. The carpet looks great after handover, but these guys put chips and put their boots all over my walls and things like that, ruined all my painting. I had to repaint it because they had to put the carpet in and they didn't care. I had to pay for it. Nightmare. Or if something goes wrong with the home, that person who's coming in is going to blame the builder's going to blame them, and you're stuck in the middle having to solve it yourself. So the more things you can get done through the builder, the easier your life is going to be, because you've got the supervisors to yell at. You don't have to yell at anybody else because, hey, I don't care whose fault it is. It's your fault. You're in charge of the site. You fix it. So if you get it through the builder, great, but it will save you money more often than not to get quotes to find out what it would cost to do that separately. For us, for our clients, we actually have a whole trade list that we actually recommend to people where they can save money. We actually have negotiated discounts with a lot of suppliers for our clients, where they save money on appliances, flooring, all sorts of stuff for our clients. That they save a fortune with this kind of stuff through us, and that's one of the ways that we save money for our clients. But you might not be going through us. You want to try and see where you can save money, see if there's a sale on, see if there's different ways that you can actually do well. So, and I'll give you an example of how you can save money with this. If you're about to sign up with a builder and you sign up with a builder today and you've decided, you know what, I'm going to supply my own feature lighting after handover, I'm going to get an electrician in, which is a great way to go, by the way. What you can do then is go, okay, well, I've got at least 6 months to get the site. I've got at least the build time to go through this. So I've got a fair bit of time. Well, what you do is you wait for the sales. You wait for a Behan lighting sale to come on. When the sale comes in, you buy all your lighting, you store it somewhere, and you're going to save yourself a fortune because you don't need it urgently today. You've got time to wait for the sales. If you do that with some big key items there or big ticket items, that's a great way to go. Another way to go is you go somewhere like Hart & Co, who they were on the podcast in the past, where they're awesome is they actually have an outlet. They might have an appliance that's got a chip in it, perfectly working appliance. It's awesome. You can buy that at a heavy discount if you go to the outlet shop. There's different ways that you can be thrifty and save money. You just got to spend the time and think about it, and that's the way to go. Things like built-in robes in your walk-in robes, for example. We've got a few companies, wardrobe companies, that we recommend that the clients get significant discounts with. However, go to IKEA or something like that, and their wardrobes are pretty fantastic. I've been many people's homes and gone, wow, I love your wardrobes. Yeah, it's all IKEA. We actually have a handyman that's pretty awesome that Eddie, that we refer out to. He's like $65 an hour, and he will actually do your whole, like any sort of IKEA stuff you want for it. He's epic, so good, so awesome, and he can do all that for you. You don't need to do it yourself if you don't want to. But there's ways of saving money if you plan it out and have a look at it. And those wardrobes, as far as I can tell, are really well made. I've got them in my own home. I reckon they're great. But if you're getting a proper cabinet maker to make them, you are up for some serious dollars. Okay, so it's just something that you can look and save money. Things like aggregate outside, decking, all that stuff. Doing that through a builder, they're gonna give that to you, but they're gonna add their margin, add GST, and they're not gonna get a discount any more than you are. So you're paying a premium for it. So yes, it's great to get it through the builder, and it's nice and done. But there were areas that to me, we've got great people that we refer to people. There's people on the podcast we would refer to. But that's a great way to save money because it's really not going to affect your build. It's not too difficult to get someone in later to do it. And you're just saving serious money. A side note of that, and this is not about saving money, but I think sometimes these things you try to get all done through the build. But what you can do though is it's nice to get the keys to your house, go out there with your partner, hang out there, and go, you know what? Now that I've seen it built, maybe we should do this or that. You might change your mind. Trying to design it all at design stages is very difficult for a lot of people. Sometimes it's good to just stay there for a bit. Think about it, get that landscaping done a little bit later, but at least you had time to, settle in, think about it, see it in reality, and get an idea. So you don't have to rush everything straight away. But let's say you did want to try and do that separately. The way that works with financing, just so you know, is what you do is you get the house price, obviously, and then you go out there and you might go to a landscaper and get them to give you a separate quote. Well, what you do is you get all that approved through the bank, and then simply when you want to get that done, that quote you've got from the landscaper, you give that to the bank and they pay them for that. So the way that works is they'll actually, you don't have to fork out the money for that. You can actually finance that money. You just need to get a quote for that to give you the allowance for that up front. So we've got finance brokers we can recommend for this, but that's how it works. It's not like you have to come up with that money separately. So look, we've covered quite a lot here. We can definitely have enough for a second podcast here. I could just keep going for another 2 years talking about different ways we can save money. There's a lot of different things here about being efficient internally with designs, not doing kitchens and bathrooms and that too big for more what you want. We can talk about how you can trim down your overall size. If you take 100 millimeters out of every room of your home, you'll be amazed at how much money that can actually save you. It's just really doing that. There's so much more we can talk about. We will do a part 2 if we have enough people that are interested and have said they like this podcast. Really would love to hear from people to find out other things that I haven't mentioned today. There's so much to talk about how they would recommend saving money, things that they did that really paid off for them. And that would be awesome to hear from them. But we probably will do a part 2. Love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to the Home Building Podcast. If you are following us, we really appreciate that. It helps us do more. If you think about following us, give it a go. It doesn't cost you anything. And at the end of the day, if you don't like what we're doing, you can always unfollow us. But who would ever do that? We are here to help people. We come out every week. Home Building Podcast is about giving people unbiased advice about how to get the best outcome when building, extending, or renovating. Thanks very much.